On a crisp autumn morning, the U.S. shocked the produce world by abruptly imposing steep tariffs on all fresh tomato imports from Mexico. The announcement sent ripples of uncertainty through the entire agricultural sector, catching many by surprise and leaving both exporters and importers scrambling for answers. Overnight, a decades-old supply chain was thrown into chaos. Trucks loaded with ripe tomatoes came to a standstill at the border, their drivers waiting anxiously for news. The once steady flow of tomatoes northward was suddenly and completely halted, leaving perishable goods stranded in limbo. The U.S. government claimed the move was necessary to protect domestic growers from unfair competition, but the immediate effect was widespread confusion and panic across the industry. Logistics managers scrambled to reroute shipments, while produce traders frantically worked the phones, trying to salvage deals and minimize losses. American supermarkets, especially during the winter months, had grown deeply reliant on a steady influx of Mexican tomatoes. Now, with the supply chain disrupted, shelves risked going bare, and store managers faced the daunting task of keeping up with customer demand. Prices were set to spike dramatically, and both importers and everyday consumers braced for impact. Shoppers watched in disbelief as price tags climbed higher, and many wondered how long the shortage would last. In Mexico, growers faced disaster. Their carefully cultivated harvests, destined for the U.S. market, suddenly had nowhere to go. Crates of unsold tomatoes piled up on farms, and workers watched helplessly as trucks stood idle, unable to deliver their produce. The political rhetoric on both sides of the border was fierce and unyielding, with leaders trading blame and promises. Yet, as the debate raged, the tomatoes kept ripening in greenhouses and fields, and the clock was ticking for growers desperate to find buyers before their crops spoiled. The big question loomed: would this be a short-term disruption, quickly resolved by negotiations, or was it the beginning of a new era in North American trade, with lasting consequences for farmers, retailers, and consumers alike? The long-standing partnership, built over decades through agreements like NAFTA and USMCA, was now facing its toughest and most public test yet. The outcome would shape the future of cross-border commerce for years to come. As politicians argued and industry experts debated possible solutions, the real question remained: where would all those tomatoes go now? Would new markets open up, or would growers be forced to let their crops rot? The race to find a new market had begun, with exporters urgently seeking buyers in other countries, hoping to salvage what they could from a season suddenly turned upside down. The effects hit American consumers fast, catching many off guard as they went about their daily routines. Supermarket shelves thinned almost overnight, and tomato prices soared to levels not seen in years. Shoppers who once took fresh produce for granted now found themselves facing sticker shock at the checkout. Suddenly, salads and sauces became luxuries for many families. Simple meals that once included tomatoes or fresh salsa were now out of reach for some, forcing households to rethink their grocery lists and meal plans. Restaurants, from local pizzerias to national chains, faced tough choices: raise menu prices, reduce portion sizes, or absorb the losses and risk their bottom line. Many chefs and owners worried about losing loyal customers. Distributors scrambled for alternatives, but the just-in-time supply chain was broken. Sourcing from new suppliers took time, and quality often suffered, leaving gaps in inventory. Warehouses saw shortages, and the ripple spread to truckers and factory workers. With less produce to move, hours were cut, and some jobs were put at risk, affecting entire communities. States like Arizona and Texas, key entry points for Mexican produce, felt the economic pain most. Local economies that depended on cross-border trade saw business slow dramatically. The tariff, meant to help U.S. farmers, was hurting local economies and businesses. Small shops and restaurants in border towns struggled to stay afloat as costs rose and customers dwindled. The lesson was clear: modern trade is deeply interconnected. Disruptions in one area quickly spread, impacting industries and livelihoods far beyond the produce aisle. A single policy shift had upended jobs, businesses, and dinner tables across the country, reminding everyone how fragile the balance of supply and demand can be. The cost of protectionism was now visible in every grocery aisle, with higher prices and fewer choices affecting millions of Americans. Americans were left wondering, was it worth it? As families and businesses struggled to adapt, the true impact of the policy became impossible to ignore. Mexico didn't wait for Washington to change its mind. As soon as the trade dispute escalated, Mexican leaders recognized the urgency of the situation and sprang into action, determined not to let uncertainty stall their economy or the livelihoods of their farmers. Instead, growers and officials pivoted quickly, targeting Canada as their new primary market. This shift required not just a change in destination, but a complete rethinking of their export strategy, from packaging to logistics. Canada's demand for fresh produce and complementary growing seasons made it the perfect fit. Mexican tomatoes could fill gaps in Canadian supply, ensuring store shelves stayed stocked year-round, and consumers had access to high-quality produce. Within weeks, Mexican exporters retooled logistics and forged new partnerships. They invested in cold storage, upgraded transportation, and worked closely with Canadian importers to meet strict quality standards. The goal was clear: prove to Canada they could be a reliable, year-round supplier. Mexican exporters knew that building trust was essential, so they focused on consistency, safety, and timely deliveries. This wasn't just a stopgap. It was a strategic shift to diversify away from U.S. dependence. By opening new trade routes and investing in infrastructure, Mexico aimed to secure its agricultural future and reduce vulnerability to political shifts. The crisis became a catalyst for innovation and new alliances. Mexican and Canadian officials worked side by side, streamlining regulations and sharing best practices to ensure smooth trade. Mexico's message was clear: adaptability is its greatest strength. The country's ability to unite government, business, and agriculture in a common cause set a powerful example for others facing similar challenges. With government support, customs and logistics were streamlined for the new trade route. Investments in technology and training helped speed up inspections and reduce bottlenecks at the border. Rather than dwell on lost markets, Mexico seized the chance to build a stronger, more resilient future. The country's proactive approach turned a potential setback into an opportunity for growth and modernization. The world was watching and taking notes. Mexico's swift strategic response became a case study in resilience, inspiring other nations to rethink their own trade strategies. The key to Mexico's pivot? Logistics. Trucking to the US was out. Rail to Canada was in. Mexico invested in refrigerated rail corridors, ensuring tomatoes arrived fresh in Toronto and Montreal. Cold storage hubs on both sides of the border kept supply steady even during delays. This new infrastructure wasn't just about speed, it was about reliability. Logistics became Mexico's secret weapon, turning a crisis into a competitive advantage. The ability to move goods efficiently now mattered as much as the goods themselves. Mexico had rewritten the rules of North American trade. Canada saw opportunity in the chaos. With U.S. supply disrupted, Canadian importers struck direct, long-term deals with Mexican growers. These contracts gave Mexican farmers stability and Canadians a steady supply of fresh tomatoes. Canada upgraded ports, rail yards, and cold storage to handle the influx. The government streamlined import rules, signaling commitment to the new partnership. Tomato prices stayed stable in Canada, even as they soared in the U.S. Canadians enjoyed full shelves and lower prices, a stark contrast to their southern neighbors. Canada's quick, strategic response paid off. Mexico's pivot wasn't about punishing the U.S. It was about survival and growth. A new trade triangle emerged, with Mexico and Canada forging a direct, resilient partnership. This shift reduced Mexico's vulnerability and gave Canada a reliable food source. Both countries invested in infrastructure and streamlined regulations, lessening dependence on U.S. policy. The U.S., by closing one door, pushed its neighbors closer together. The result, a more balanced, interconnected North American economy. The tomato shakeup became a blueprint for future trade alliances. The region was changed, perhaps for good. The tomato trade crisis became a case study in global supply chain dynamics. It proved that trade routes can shift rapidly when obstacles arise. Reliability and stability now matter more than just low prices. The U.S. tariffs, meant to protect, ended up hurting its own consumers and businesses. In today's world, being a dependable partner is as valuable as being a big market. The real winners were those who adapted: engineers, planners, and business leaders who kept goods moving. Tariffs may disrupt, but logistics and resilience win in the end. The lesson in global trade: adaptability is everything.